All right, kids. All right. Welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. And this is the third time I've had this gentleman on, all the way from Phoenix, Mr. Greg Chaisson. And you know what? We're just going to jump right in. You and I were talking last week. There was something that came out, and you want to, I guess, say your piece and properly position it. So without further ado, you go right ahead.
So the reason that, one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I had done an interview with my friend Brian Sword from Double Stop, and I had done a couple of interviews with him in the past, but the last one being right as I was joining Red Dragon Cartel in 2014. So he wanted to do an interview from 2014 to the present, from the Red Dragon Cartel situation till then. And Brian's a cool dude. I like doing his show. As a matter of fact, I even kind of said a few things I regretted saying, and he let me edit them out, which was very nice of him. So in the heading, it said Red Dragon Cartel, Kings of Dust and Atomic Kings. So a lot of people, and I got over 200 private messages from people congratulating me on being back in Red Dragon Cartel and Jake and I back together again. And so it made me realize that they probably had just read the headlines and didn't actually watch much of the interview, which is neither here nor there. So just to clear things up, I am not in Red Dragon Cartel. As far as I know, the status with them is the same. Anthony Esposito is the bass player. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good bass player. He played great on Patina. Jake and I are still friends, and we've been friends since 84 or something. And at some point, would I like to play in a band with Jake again? Sure, I absolutely would. He's my favorite guitar player. I like what he brings to the table as a writer and all that kind of stuff, and the freedom that he allows me when I am playing with him. But as of this very second, there's nothing in the works. If it's ever going to happen, it would be Jake calling me up and saying, "Hey, do you want to do it?" And I would probably say, yeah. And that we're not there. So it's just, that was him picking up the part of my career that started in Red Dragon Cartel. And I wasn't in the band that long. I was only in the band for about, I think I joined in August and I was out by the beginning of April, due to my cancer diagnosis that you and I have talked about before. So that's just to clear that up. I am not in Red Dragon Cartel, and I don't even know exactly what they are doing, if anything, at this point. And I am happy doing just some recording projects is all I'm really doing at the moment. So there's that.
Okay. So, and you said you've got, in or around 200 messages over the weekend about this. Any of them from Jake, or any of them from people around him? Or because when I saw the article, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I kind of glossed over it and I sent it to you and I said, "Is this true?" And I didn't really read it, because what I read, where I got it from, in one of the sources, I know that source to be pretty credible, and I know that source to also they won't post stuff unless they think they have an actual scoop. Therefore, I just went to you and said, "Hey, congrats if it's a thing." But were you talking with anybody in his camp or him at all?
I mean, Jake and I text a number of times a week, and we've texted since the interview's has come out, and I'm sure he probably knows about it. And he never questioned me about it, and normally he wouldn't. On occasion, I'll do an interview and we'll have a conversation through text about something that I may have said, and maybe I have my facts slightly askew, and he'll say, actually what really happened, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that," or whatever. I'm old, so my memory is suspect in some regards. But I didn't get anything from anyone in his camp, Anthony or anyone else. Besides the over 200 personal messages, a bunch of people also posted on the Brian Sword's interview got picked up on a couple other sites, and some people pointed me in that direction, and there were a number of comments on the Double Stop site and the other sites that picked it up, and they are credible sites. And people were commenting again, congratulations, Greg, and blah, 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 you and Jake, and such and such and such and such. And so when you sent me, I kind of was just kind of going, well, I guess that's just, the price of doing business. But then when you sent me a message, I thought this actually is probably something I should address a little bit. I mean, what's the saying? Any press is good press. So it didn't bother me. The only reason that it bothered me is I hated to see people get their hopes up. And the other thing is I didn't want to do any disrespect to Anthony. Anthony's been in Red Dragon Cartel way, 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 way longer than I have. And I didn't want people to be hitting him up, and they probably did, saying, hey, man, what's going on with you and Red Dragon Cartel? We heard Chaisson's back in the band. So my thing was just to clear that up. And out of respect for Anthony, I've been friends with him a long time. I respect what he does. And I just wanted to make sure that, I don't know how much this clears anything up. It depends on how far it goes, but that is the situation. So.
Well, and I mean, for you to say what you said, I mean, it's oftentimes, Greg, in the business that somebody will come in and replace somebody, and there's been an underhanded way of the talks have been going on for a period of time behind somebody's back, and just talking to you, and I've got to know you over the last few years. You're a straight shooter. You're one of those guys that, when you're commenting on stuff on Facebook or social media, you're not pulling any punches, and you're very honest. And so I don't think anybody, people will be disappointed. But here's why I think. There was a lot of the posts the last couple of weeks about Ray Gillen's birthday.
Yes.
And Badlands seems to be one of those bands that just won't go away. I mean, the band's been gone for a while, but so for you and Jake, the appearance that maybe it's going to happen, people get excited.
No, I get that. Right? I totally get that. And the thing is, because Ray passed away, and Jake has always been adamant about that there'll never be a Badlands without Ray in it. And I've never once went to Jake and wouldn't say, oh, come on, man, let's do it anyway. Let's just get another. And trust me, I've got the names of 60 singers. One in particular text to me in the last week and a half. So I'm always, the thing about Jake and I is I've always been on board with what his game plan was. It was never like, Jake, I was Jake's choice for Badlands, and I was also his choice for Ozzy. And so I'll just, go along in lockstep and agree with anything he says. That's not the case at all. I just happen to think about the music business the same way he does. When we first got the band together, he actually said, hey, I just want you to know that I never take the easy way. If there's a road that's straight as an arrow, that's lined with gold and money and all this stuff, and then there's another road that's at the very end of a cliff with, alligators and rattlesnakes and broken glass and nails, I'll take that road every time. And I agreed with that. I thought that's how I would do it. And I don't want it easy. I mean, could we have sold more records and made more money if we had done exactly what the record company wanted? I don't know. I mean, maybe not. But in the end, I think that one of the things about Jake and I that's similar is that when I look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day, I go, oh my God. No, I say, okay, I stuck to my convictions. I did what I believe in, whether anyone else believed in it or not. I'm happy with the path I chose. I never became a musician to be a rock star or to be a millionaire. I became a musician because it was the next closest competition that happened to me after I quit playing baseball when I was a kid. And also for the acceptance of my peers, of other musicians, whether they're, a famous, well-known musician or just some dude I met in a bar. So that is what motivates me more than, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I don't know whether that actually exists. It has never existed for me, and I've never lost any sleep over it.
And you know what? That in itself could be a PSA for people that are chasing that all the time, because I think that sometimes people get caught up in that chase and they miss, little stops along the way that they could be enjoying and learning from.
I think you're 100% right. And the other thing is, one of the things about Badlands that was great, and I followed that same kind of formula in my subsequent bands, Kings of Dust and Atomic Kings, is not worrying about what the trend is at the time. You know, Badlands came around in the late 80s, 88 is when it kind of, came to formation. And we weren't trying to guess what was going to be popular. We were just going to do what we wanted to do. And so Jake had material, a direction that he wanted to go in that encompassed a number of different influences and styles and that kind of thing. And that we stayed to that. It was never, well, let's try and guess what's going to be popular in a year when this record comes out, and we'll write a record that way. We never did that on any of the 2 records that came out officially on Atlantic, and we never did it on Dusk. We just went with the path that was Jake's original vision, and I agreed with it 100%. The bands I liked in the 70s kind of had that same kind of vibe, and since I'm kind of a 70s style bass player, it just fit into what I wanted to do. I'll give you an example. If I had a choice between, I could have been in Motley Crue, who was arguably the most successful band, or Bon Jovi, or Badlands. I would have chosen Badlands every time. Now, obviously, I didn't have the looks for either one of those other bands, but I fit in good for Badlands, so it worked good.
I don't know about that, man. You were you got a swagger when you play. There's no question. I mean, the bass long low and what have you. But the interesting thing about Badlands to me, and you and I have talked about this before. So those 2 albums, if they somehow somebody found the masters now, was able to release them, I bet you they would sell millions of copies, because all the time I have people saying, I got a copy, I got a cassette, I get a CD. And obviously we know that the record label kind of crapped the bed on that, but ever think about that, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, from what my understanding is, the first record sits at about 485,000 copies. And if that record was to come out now, even with streaming, I think we could have a gold record from that in a week. And the second one, from what I understand, sits around at 425,000. So at some point, maybe even that would, I mean, a lot of people that had either one of those would probably go back and find, buy another one, especially if they were to come out on vinyl. But I think, and I'm giving my opinion here, the reason that you're not seeing them, regardless of what all the rumors are, is that Atlantic Records is who we were ultimately signed with, doesn't want us to ever sell enough copies to recoup the original investment that they made, because we never recouped our advances. And then if that ever happened, the rights to those records would go back to us, ultimately Jake and Ray's estate and me, and even Eric or Jeff. So we would have license and control of our own destiny to, release the product whichever way we wanted to. And I think that ultimately, because we wouldn't do exactly what the record company wanted, we really never got along good with Jason Flom. There was a lot of other politics involved in this whole thing. They would set a game plan, and again, because we're going to take the road that's on the edge of a mountain with rattlesnakes and nails and glass, we didn't do that, and we stayed true to ourselves. I'll give you a really good example. They came to us before Voodoo Highway and said, we want you to record this song Burning Heart by Vandenberg, which is a great song. And our reply was, no, we don't want to do that song. We'll write our own songs. And then they said, we want you to write with a couple of the writers who were maybe Desmond Child, and there's a couple other guys, I'm drawing a blank on their names. And we said no. So right there, you're not incurring any favor with anyone, because they're trying to do it. We're going to commercialize these guys, and we're going to bring in an outside writer, and we're going to make sure that, we get a hit single out of them. Although we thought the last time could have been a hit single if it had been promoted correctly off that record, which it wasn't promoted correctly. So when you're telling someone that's basically your boss, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So, that kind of stuff isn't going to endear you to anyone. And, eventually what happened is they said, we don't want anyone in New York. And we had some fans at the New York office promoting this record. If you promote this record, you will be fired. I personally know 2 people were fired for promoting the record on the side. And when Atlantic Records didn't need us, and we probably needed them, but we didn't care. And so you're not going to get they pulled our tour support. So we were supposed to have $10,000 a week for tour bus and all that crap. They pulled all that. They said, you're getting nothing. We'll promote this record to a certain extent because we have to. But other than that, you're on your own. We're not going to do another record with you. And we were fine. We didn't want to do another record with them. We had our own internal problems in the band at the same time. It's a band. Bands have internal problems. That's what we do. We write songs, we go on tour, and we don't get along with everyone all the time. It's watch Behind the Music now and then. It's an old story. So true. There was a number of things going on there. We had fired our original manager, who was part of the record company. We were with Atlantic, but we were also part of Titanium, which was this supposedly boutique label put together for our benefit, which wasn't to our benefit. But, when you're firing your manager, who's also a quarter of the record company or boutique label, that's pretty tough. So a lot of stuff that's been said about Badlands and this and that has to do with, and again, I'm speaking my opinion in my mind, has to do with them not wanting for us to ever recoup the original investment, and then the rights to the record would go back to us. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Atlantic doesn't need us. And to be perfectly honest, other than the fact that the fans would love to have it, we don't need Atlantic. I mean, they can do whatever they want. And I wish it was out there available for people so you don't have to spend $150 for the first one on vinyl. And I wish it was out there for people to enjoy and, discover for the first time and rediscover. I think both those records are brilliant. There, I said it. Sue me. So that would be my only thing. But as far as, do I lose any sleep over it? Does Jake lose any sleep over it? I don't think so. I mean, there's a certain, I don't even know how I would explain it. There's a certain gnawing at you regarding it. But on the other hand, it's like, it's out of my control. I've always been a big person of you can only control what you can control. And I don't have any control over that. And at this point, neither does Jake, I don't think, unless he knows something I don't. So it is what it is. I'm happy for the 2 records we did. I'm even happy for Dusk. It's actually my favorite of the 3. But it is what it is.
You guys you're in this inevitable position, I guess, where you're one of very few bands that everybody talks about. It appears nobody bought the record. Well, not enough people bought the record, but if it came out now, it would sell, like to your point, it would sell a crazy amount of money. And they're almost like cult status recordings, right? Like everybody knows them. And again, Greg, the other day, somebody, best rock album I've ever heard in my life, talking about the first one, best rock album I've heard in my life, the second one. And I sent a text to you too there last week, man. Good job on not taking the bait from that guy they were doing one of your tunes there, and you said, yeah, he's not too bad, but you didn't go on the whole, frig him, he's terrible or whatever. You took the high road on it, and I thought that was great. But you have to at some point go. It is pretty cool that maybe we didn't become superstars, but we really did become superstars in a way.
Well, I think because of Ray's death and the fact that you can't get the 2 records. The 2 of those things together kind of make that cult thing, because there can never, if Ray was alive, would there have been a Badlands reunion by now? Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% positive that Jake and Ray and myself and a drummer, and I don't know who, would have done something, probably multiple somethings. Did we always get along? No. Would we always get along if Ray was alive now? No. It's just the nature of the business. Everyone has an opinion. I always say that in Badlands, everyone had an opinion and everyone was right and wrong at the same time.
Absolutely.
So you can't be 100% right, but you believe in your convictions. So because there's never going to be that Badlands reunion. If Jake and I went out with another drummer and another singer and played Badlands song, it's still not going to be as cool as if Ray was there. I mean, it's Ray Gillen, the best singer of his generation and one of the best singers of any generation. So, it's hard to replace that. Do I hear guys that can kind of sound like him at moments? Sure, I do. And Jake and I even had this conversation. Do any of them sound exactly like Ray or close enough to make it work? No, not really. Ray had something completely special in his voice. I'd never heard it before, and I've never heard it since. He had the ability to sing with two tones coming out at the same time. So he's got this kind of clean tone, and then he's got this kind of little gravelly tone kind of on top of it that he's doing it all at one time. You can hear it in the live videos. And I've never heard anyone do it. Can I hear people hit the notes that Ray does? Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of guys that can sing that high. Is there guys that can sing with that amount of emotion? Yeah, probably. But you got to remember, Ray wrote the lyrics to all those songs. So it's his emotion. It's his story that he's telling. So can anyone match that? No. So Ray was so unique from that perspective that it would be an imitation, even if Jake and I did it, or even if Jake just did it, it would be an imitation. When I was in Red Dragon Cartel, and no, I'm not in Red Dragon Cartel right now. If I was in Red Dragon, when I was, Darren, James Smith, I thought he did an excellent job. He's covering a really wide palette of singers. He's singing all the Aussie stuff. He's singing stuff that he sang on the Red Dragon record. He's singing stuff that other people sang on that, and he's got to cover Ray. That's pretty tough. Does he sound like Ray? No, but he managed to get it. He was a good enough singer that he could get the point across. And then Jake and I would, do our thing, which was obviously very authentic to what Badlands was, since we're the only two members that were in from the very beginning to the very end. So I thought he did a good job, but I don't think anyone, I had a lot of people, he doesn't sound like Ray. Well, no one sounds like Ray.
Yep.
You're not, you could get a guitar player that understands how Jake plays and he could do it. Is he going to sound exactly like Jake? Of course not. And even from a bass player perspective, could you get another bass player that can do what I do? Sure. But would it have the same feel, tonality, understanding of the craziness of my 10 pounds of bologna in a 2-pound bag? Probably not. And to the point, I mean, we got Jeff Martin in the band after Eric, and Jeff's a great drummer, but he didn't play the stuff that Eric played, whether it's Devil Stomp or whatever it is. I can't think at the moment. Did he play it exactly like Eric? No, he didn't. And that wasn't required, but Jeff was in the band and he brought his own spin to it. So everyone does what they do. I don't ever believe in best. Is Jake the best guitarist in the world? Well, he's the best Jakey Lee there'll ever be. Amen. Am I the best bass player in the world? No. I'm the best Greg Chaisson sitting here right now doing this interview with you. And that's the best I can hope for. And I just use the word best. That's all I can hope for. And that's kind of what I do. And so on and so on and so on. Is Billy Sheehan better than John Entwistle? Stupid question. No. Billy Sheehan's better at being Billy Sheehan, and John Entwistle was better at being John Entwistle. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, it's funny. When we play a show, every time we sound check, we always do high wire in the sound check. Just it's just so much fun, right? And but you mentioned Entwistle, and I recently reread an article that he did about Keith Moon, and Keith Moon always used to say, "Yeah, that drummer's pretty good, but I'm the best Keith Moon drummer that is out there." And I love what you're saying, because now more than ever, I think there's this emphasis on the best. People think they're going to be discovered off posting something on YouTube, and the thing that is really missing in a lot of music that I personally see is that art, that soul, that it's just all mechanical and kind of, not a lot of truth and not a lot of really real stuff. If you understand what I mean.
Well, there's not a lot of originality anymore, which isn't necessarily totally required, but because recording techniques are so different and you can cut and paste right off your computer, it takes and stick parts in and this and that. The Badlands stuff and a lot of the stuff I did in that period was recorded the way that it was done back in the olden days with a real tube board and real tape machine and the whole 9 yards. And if you screwed up a take, if the drummer screwed up a take, you couldn't cut and paste a part in there. It had to be done over again. Mm-hmm. And same thing as a bass player. I really wasn't a big fan of fixing things. I would rather just do the whole track over again or whatever. So I on the first Badlands record, I was real meticulous about making sure every little squeak and everything was. And then when it came out, I was like, man, that was stupid. So then on every subsequent record, I just try to get my part as close as I can get it. And if the emotion is there, then I'm good. Jake always says that sometimes the best part is a mistake that you made that you didn't mean to play, but it just fits in there so well. And to me, that emotion is more important than was it completely perfect. That's why I don't like to play with drummers that use click tracks. I mean, I understand why you use it, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear a click in my headphones. I just want to, you do your thing. And I like to play with a drummer that can manipulate the click. It's on, but he can play at the front end of it or the back end of it. Jimmy Taft, who played drums in Kings of Dust and in Atomic Kings, he would manipulate the click. But sometimes he would take the click completely out and we would put it on a click after to see, and he'd still be right on. So that's kind of a.
Well, if I get out to Arizona, I'm going to jam with you, and I can do that, my friend, because I do that all the time, and I'll look forward to it. And so just to recap, no Red Dragon Cartel. That was just a kind of just a misstep. I haven't had a chance to ask you about Atomic Kings, and obviously, I thought a lot of that band. I really liked it. And you stepping aside from that certainly surprised me. I never, sent you a message and asked why, but you had other things on the go. But just really quickly, what led to that, and what do you have on the go now?
I felt that, in my opinion, it had no traction to it. I mean, we put a record out, it got some interest right off the bat, but because people put out records so fast and there's so many records coming out every day, actually, that it's easy, back in the olden days, you had about a 3 to 6 month shelf life where the record's actually, you're working it. And then if it gets some legs and some traction, then it can go for as long as, the record's still selling. First Van Halen, for example, or Aerosmith, whichever. We got some buzz right out of the gate, but because we had no real management, the record company didn't do the things that it said it would do. They talked about promotion and marketing. They did none of that. And I don't think he anticipated the kind of, in the first day, we'd sold more records than anyone on his label had ever sold through the whole duration of it. And I don't think he was prepared for that. And so we weren't able to tour, and we had no management. We had no actual financing or no machine behind us. And so I just thought we weren't writing enough. I mean, Ryan and I wrote all the time because he works at the store that I run, Bizarre Guitar and Drum in Phoenix. He works there with me. So we would write quite frequently. But the band wasn't getting together. It seemed to be there was too many distractions or outside things going on with the band that we weren't getting to the material. And I just thought, this isn't really going anywhere. It's kind of stressing me out. I'd been doing that band in one iteration or another since before Red Dragon Cartel, and then a couple of years after Red Dragon Cartel. So it covers probably a 12-year period. I just wanted a break. I thought it had done what it had done. I liked the record. I like everyone on the record. It just wasn't moving the pile forward anymore for me. And unless we were going to write new songs, I mean, we signed a distribution deal with another record company, and they wanted us to do a record for them, but we would have to pay for our own record. We would have to pay to do marketing. We would have to pay to do promotion, photos, all that stuff's coming out of our end of it. And they're basically going to distribute the record and see if they can get us on the radio. And I don't even know what radio is worth anymore. I don't really know, how much, real radio station radio is there. So
Not a lot of terrestrials anymore, that's for sure.
So I just didn't see the point anymore. I like the guys in the band. I think it's a great record. I like the material that we were writing that we never got to, but I just didn't want to be a local band in Phoenix and just be playing in Phoenix every 2 months. I mean, the shelf life for that is very short. I mean, why do people come and see? If they can see you in 2 months, why would they come this time? So it was kind of losing, in my opinion, what made it special. It had nothing to do with anything other than my unsatisfaction with where it was going, what it was going to cost to keep it going. I give you a guy I know here has a band in Phoenix. It's a local band. They are going to spend $1,500 to open for some band at the Whiskey, and they're going to have to pay for gas to get there, food and lodging. By the time you're done to go open at the Whiskey, it's $3,000. Now I get it. It's the Whiskey, and I played the Whiskey a number of times. I headlined it when I was in Red Dragon Cartel. No, I'm not in Red Dragon Cartel. And I had also headlined it when I was in LA. I think we even played there when I was in Badlands. So I get the fascination of playing at the Whiskey. Humble Pie played there. Zeppelin played there. The Who played there. Guns N' Roses, yada, yada, on down the line. So I get the idea behind it, but $1,500 to be an opening band. So you're opening for some other band, and you're direct support, but it costs you $1,500 plus at least $1,500 to get there and do the gig. Back to my point about Atomic Kings, I just couldn't see spending $3,000 to go open for. I wouldn't spend $3,000 to go open for Zeppelin at the friggin' Madison Square Gardens. I don't see the point, because you can't sell your record. So people don't really buy records. So you bring the CDs and you hope to sell a couple hundred of them, maybe. But in the end, people just buy it on Amazon, and everyone knows how much money, you get from that. Nothing. So I just didn't see the point in that sort of a thing because of the way the business is now.
I won't name names, but I'm fairly certain. I'll name names off camera, but I'm fairly certain I know who that band is, because I know, oddly enough, I know so many people in Phoenix. You were the first one I met, and then I met a bunch more. The talent out there is ridiculous. I mean, there's so many people in that area that are just amazingly talented. And I'm hearing everything from it's a good scene to it's an okay scene to it's a cover scene, it's an original scene. So I want to get out there and find out for myself. But I want to end with this, sir. I want everybody to go on Greg's page, and he posted a video from, I think it was the weekend, where you cranked a ball at a baseball game, and you ran to first base, and you made the comment about, I just turned, whatever. And my friend, you had some pep in your step after you made contact with that ball.
For some freakishly unknown reason, I can still run, and I've always been really fast. So I'll be 71 in August. And the ability to run like that is it's rare indeed. I play in a league. It's a 60 and over league. And there's probably 3 or 4 guys in the whole league that are probably on par with being able to run like that. And only one of them is my age. The rest of them are in their 60s and sometimes their early 60s. So it's nothing I did. I've always been fast, but I enjoy that. If I can't run anymore, I probably would quit playing. So
it was impressive.
Yeah, keeps me young. Keeps me young. The Phoenix scene, I'll tell you real quick. The Phoenix scene, it's not bad. There are a lot of original bands. There's one good place to play here. Well, the Marquee is, let me rephrase that. The Marquee is the marquee place to play. But you got to buy your way onto that as well. So you could be opening for, Quiet Riot, and to be the headlining band, to be the direct support, you got to sell I don't know, $500 worth of tickets or 1,000 or whatever. And so you basically are calling all your friends saying, hey, you're going to come and see me at the Marquee? Oh, cool. I can get you a discount ticket. And then you got to go through that. And then whatever you don't sell, you have to pay the rest of it. Now, if you sell over your 500 tickets or your $500 worth of tickets and you sell $600, then you get part of that extra $100, not even all of it. The only time I've ever played at the Marquee is I played in Red Dragon Cartel there. No, I'm not in Red Dragon Cartel. And that was cool. We were the headliner. And then the other time is when I was in Atomic Kings, we opened for Ace Frehley there. And because their soundman, Night Bob, had been our soundman in Badlands, we got that gig. We didn't have to sell tickets, and we actually got paid to do it. I'm sure that's a rarity. So there are a few other places to play in Phoenix, but they're at the club size, bar size, venue size, and it's not bad. But it's a fairly tough market. There are a lot of talented musicians here. There's a lot of country or new country here, which sorry, did I say that out loud? Yeah. And then what's really big here is like what's big in everywhere else is tribute bands. I'm actually going to see my buddy's Scorpions tribute band on Thursday. So I understand why tribute bands are around, and because, you're not going to be seeing a lot of these bands anymore and this and that. I would never do one because unless you want some guy that plays like John Entwistle in your ZZ Top band, yeah, you probably don't want me. I'm not only do I play by the rules in the book? I've never even read the book. So I just kind of do what I want, which is why playing in an original band, playing with Jake and Badlands or Red Dragon, or even doing Atomic Kings, why that works for me, because I can write my own parts.
Greg, I always like to chat with you because, first and foremost, you always speak your mind, which I think is great. And secondly, you don't take yourself too seriously. I think if you actually knew where you were in a lot of people's sort of spheres in terms of your influence on them, I think you might get a little bit of big head. So we won't try to make that happen for you. But I want to thank you for doing this, and hopefully we cleared this up. Anything that you have on the go, by all means, shoot it my way. I am more than happy to get the word out there because you, sir, are a true gentleman.
Well, I have, I'll say real quick, I'm doing a record with Ryan McKay, who plays in Atomic Kings with me, or played it when I was in Atomic Kings. No, I'm not in Atomic Kings. So he's doing a record with his brother that lives in another state. They've never done a record together. So I have co-written some songs with Ryan for that. And I think it's called the McKay Brothers, and I'm not sure when that'll be out. And I'm going to play bass on a bunch of that. And then I have a record coming up with a friend of mine, Greg Mara, and then and the drummer's Jimmy DeAnda from the Bullet Boys. He's out with Lynch now. And so we have, I think it's an EP. So I have that I will be recording sometime in August. And going way back, I was in a band in the early 80s here, Surgical Steel, and they have a double CD coming out. And I think I'm on a couple of the songs, but they had to re-record a couple of their later songs, and because all they had was live recordings and it didn't translate. So I think Jeff Martin is putting the drums down on it, and they've talked me into playing bass on a couple of these tracks. I didn't write them, but I'm going to do that. So those are on the immediate horizon for me. And other than that, I'm going to go see my grandkids and play baseball and hang around with my family and my gigantic dog that's laying here. And I'm always up for something. And hopefully, I tend to land on my feet on occasion. So I think I'll be okay. And I appreciate what you do, and appreciate all the people out there that have been so supportive of what it is I do, and remembering Badlands so, fervently, I guess is the word I want to use. So, they're so enthusiastic about Badlands, and sometimes I like to argue with some of them online about certain subjects that they don't really know anything about, and I'll chime in, and then I get a big laugh because someone else will say, "You do realize you're arguing with the bass player in the band, right?" And they'll go, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry." So I get kind of a kick out of that. It's my own little guilty pleasure there. So.
Nothing wrong with that. Greg Chaisson, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll chat soon.
Okay.